students ask this question just to challenge you a little bit. North Dakota legislature seems to get into different issues sometimes that don't seem friendly, seem to be against young people, libraries, different things in our state. How do you do with students to kind of work through that, to say, no, it's really a good state to be in, but it's just some people have unusual ideas or something. How do you combat that when sometimes it seems we're a little backward in our thinking?
Ooh, that's a complicated thing to answer. There's been a lot.
I'm sure it was one of your students.
Lots of conversations. I think there's a lot of students who have been really adamant this biennium. There's been a lot of social bills that have impacted students in negative ways and will likely cause collateral damage on college students. And so there's been a lot of conversations as to how we can sort of mitigate these decisions, but there's also a lot of students who are taking more proactive stances and actually speaking to legislators. There's been a lot of them speaking in legislature, writing resolutions. They're taking this new proactive stance that we haven't really taken a whole lot in the past, and they're actually meeting one-on-one with legislators and saying, why are you proposing this? Like, I'm one of your delegate, or I'm one of your constituents. You've claimed that all of your constituents agree with this. Here's myself completely disagreeing with what you are saying. And I think that's been a really powerful thing this biennium. I think there's been a lot of cool sort of changes in how people think this year. So to answer your question, a lot of conversations and a lot of proactiveness this year. It's been great to see.
I think we would welcome people to get into the arena because sometimes people are silent and then we don't get the message of what the community is thinking.
Yeah.
Kerry, M-State has changed writing over the years, and sometimes with change it becomes difficult to enhance the change. What is it in your leadership that you look at of the needs? Employers in town might say, here's what we need, but you have to identify what you'll train or what courses you'll have. How do you react to those changes, and what do you do to embrace them?
That's a great question, and I was talking earlier to some students about this because community and technical colleges were designed to mirror the workforce needs of the region. So it's fundamentally who we are, that we evaluate our programs every year to see if there's a disconnect. Someone asked me today about culinary and whether or not we were bringing culinary back. And it's a great example because there's a need, but in this region, very, very few people who are in that industry make enough money to justify debt incurred to get the job. And so those are all the types of things you get to look at every year with every academic program we have. Do we have enough students? Are they making enough money to get a return on their investment? And is it still what employers are telling us they need most? Every program in M-State has an advisory committee made up of business people who tell us how our students are doing in business, what they need more of, what they need less of. So they put the pressure on us twice a year and our faculty to be more nimble and mobile. So that's changing all the time. We have hundreds of courses that go through a system every semester to be updated. So if new technology needs to be updated, our faculty hear that from business directly, they put the changes in the system, we get the equipment, they start training students. So it's kind of who we are. I think people, I've been known to say recently, I think we used to be the best kept secret, and sometimes we wish we were a little bit more secret right now because it's crazy how many folks want us to start new programs on the dime, and we can do that quickly, but we need to make sure we have space. On the Moorhead campus, we don't have a lot of space, so we've got 3 or 4 program options right now that we're trying to find space for. And so that might be evenings, weekends. We're trying to do as much as we can to be flexible and continue to innovate.
Thank you. In our community, we've grown 15 to 20% in the last 10 years. Moorhead, Fargo, West Fargo, Horace. There's an immigrant part of that population that's coming as well. So there are 2 employers here. What do you think, Randy? How do you get those people to come into your workforce and become part of the workforce? And are you aware that there are some people available that can be working for you?
Mm-hmm. I think it again goes back to culture, right? People want to feel that they are working in a place where they're accepted and they belong. And I think a lot of times with folks coming in from an immigrant perspective, it's underutilized talent. There's talent out there that are taking positions just to have a position when really they're qualified for something else. And so how do we, make sure that services and things are available to help folks get in front of employers? I think that's a big part of it is just how do we help, right? How does that visibility get there? And then how open can employers be? I know we always get asked about sponsorship. I think that's a hard thing. I think every place I've worked, that's been a hard thing, right? It's the decision to pay for a sponsorship and are you going to sponsor? And a lot of employers don't because of the cost. And so what can we do to get around that? I think is something that we need to be looking at in the future. especially. Kevin?
Yeah, I would say our recruiters do a great job of getting out into the community where there are events that are able to support in different careers, different resources that they may need. So we've got recruiters that are pretty active in our community. But yeah, I think that's the part that we play in that.
Very good. Kristen, you got another question. They're saying you can sell wages to students, but what if they're looking, what other things might they be looking in that company? What are the things that they would like to see in the company might be different that sets different employers apart?
So other than culture, flexibility, wage, and hours, cookies and slides.
Beer and chocolate.
I'm trying to think. I think proximity plays a pretty big role in where you want to work. I think it's really nice to be able to find a job in Fargo because, of course, it is really close to our homes. Other than that, yeah, please.
When we're talking to students in schools, one of the things that we talk about are tuition reimbursement programs, where employers are willing to pay for students' tuition in exchange for work agreement. And I actually think one of the things that there was a Gallup poll that was just done, I think, for Amazon, that said for new hires, 66% of them said that actually training and professional development was like a big perk for them. And I think as employers, the more that you are willing to show a student that you're willing to invest in them, like send them to training, help them pay for school, maybe get an additional certification, and actually incorporate that in your career path. You know, a lot of times when we think about career paths, it's like you're going to be an engineer 1, and then an engineer 2, and then you're going to be a senior engineer, and then you're going to be a manager. And actually at Microsoft, you had to become a manager, even though a software developer might make a terrible manager, but that was the career path. What I'd like to see, and what we're trying to work with some of our employers on, is engineer 1, engineer 2. Then we're going to send you back to school, and then you're going to get caught up on some things, and then you're going to go to your next level. Kind of incorporating education into the career path, which I actually think then also opens some doors for higher ed to drive some additional revenue streams where it's not just new people coming out of high school, going to school, and then getting a job. It's actually becoming part of an employer's, basically continuing education plan. How do we leverage what you all are great at to train not just new entrants into the workforce, but existing workers that need upskilling? So I think training is a big benefit.
I got one more for you because somebody asked this question and I need to get it. It follows up on that. For some students, job searches are overwhelming and there's a fear of the unknown. How can the employers bridge that gap and get the students to take a risk and apply for a certain job? Sometimes it seems like they're not quite sure what the job, and Microsoft had some different ways in which they manage employees. Different companies do that. But if you're a little frightened to get in there and do that job, how do you get through that risk?
Yeah. I think that's something that we can do for our students is help them understand that you can take different career paths and you can try a job, and if it doesn't work out, either in a specific career or at a company, there are options. This is a kind of a big question, but one of the things that we try to talk to students about is first figure out what you're good at, and then I guarantee you there's like 1,000 jobs that need that skill. So if you're good working with your hands, I could find you probably 100 manufacturing companies in the area that will hire you right away. And so it's kind of up to you. Which one do you like? What's the culture that you like? What is an industry or a product that you're passionate about? And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. You can find a different job. Chances are that company is going to do everything they can. If they know what they're doing, they're going to do everything that they can to keep you and find a different job for you that's going to work out. So sometimes we try to take that pressure off of the student. I think when I grew up, people would ask, what are you going to do? And it always felt like, man, if I get this wrong, I'm screwed. And I don't think that's really true. I've had so many different career twists and turns in my life, and it seemed to work out okay for me. And I think we need to help our students explore, understand that if they don't need to make the perfect decision, they need to make a good one, and that will lead to another one, and that will lead to another one, and eventually they will be just fine.
Did you do something one time wrong in your job? I mean, you just flopped and it didn't work well. Did something like that do that and said, oh, I may want to try something different or try different new? Or...
Yeah.
I did perfect. No mistakes, no flops. I actually think my biggest flop was, sharing everything with all you. I own a company, a software company, consulting. I graduated with an English major from Morehead State University. There is no way that I should be doing what I'm doing, sitting on this panel talking with these awesome folks. Back in the day when I was an English major, we were supposed to work at a fast food restaurant. That was the joke. Or go back and get a graduate degree and then be a teacher. And after graduation, I think I kind of lived that a little bit, where I worked at a Godfather's Pizza, TJ Maxx, if you remember that one. And I did that, and it was awesome. I had a great time. But I think I could have gotten started on what was next. The reality of that, though, is it gave me time to kind of decompress from college, and then I started this journey of really crazy career adventures that honestly probably gave me the perspectives. So I don't know that any of us would say that there was a flop, but maybe there are some things that we would have done differently, but then who knows, we might not be here on this panel if we had done things differently. So,
You want to be the
Perfect.
instructor. Jane,